Greetings of the day and welcome to the session. So, we were discussing about the impact of culture on strategy, implementation or execution, and also we have learnt what is culture and will culture be an ally or an obstacle in the strategy execution process, and also we learnt how culture promotes better strategy execution. So, what actually is culture? See, every organization will have its own culture, will have its own beliefs, will have its own values, will have its own way of doing the things, will have its own way of dealing with the employees, with the customers, taking out the problems. So, each and every organization will have its own embedded patterns and style of dealing with the things and people and issues. So that can be called as culture. And whenever there is a culture which is supportive to the strategy, only then the strategy implementation becomes easy. On the other hand, if an organization is having a rigid culture which is not at all conducive to the successful implementation of the strategy, then even though the strategy may be formulated in a very successful manner, or even though the strategy may be formulated in a better way, but implementation becomes very tough and we cannot implement the strategy. So this is one of the important questions, how culture promotes better strategy execution, that already we learned, and we have 4 points there. The first point tells that a culture grounded in values, practices and behavioral norms will energize the people of the organization, and that will help the people of the organization to work in a strategy supportive culture. And the second one is, whenever the organization is having a good culture of encouraging the creativity, welcoming the change, that is embracing the change and challenging the status quo, then definitely those organizations are said to be having right kind of strategy, culture, and that is better helpful for the successful implementation of a particular strategy. And whenever an organization is having the culture of listening to the customers, encouraging the employees to actively participate in the decision making process, even then that culture is very good and conducive to the successful implementation of the strategy. And definitely the culture should improve the organization in several ways, and the culture should prepare the organization to accept the strategy and to implement the strategy. And conclusion what we can give is, always there should be a good fit. Okay, always there should be a good fit between culture and strategy. Because whenever there is a good fit between culture and strategy, that will definitely stimulate the employees to accept the challenge of realizing the company's vision and do their jobs competently with enthusiasm and collaborate with others to effectively implement the strategy. See, what are the basic things that are required? What are the basic things that are required to implement the strategy? The first one is the competency of the workers. Second one is the collaboration and coordination among the workers, and third one is enthusiasm. So these three are the most important things. And when can we get these three things? We can get these three things whenever we have a very good culture in the organization. A very good culture which supports the employees, which creates a very good working environment to the employees. Only then we can have that kind of strategy implementation. So, after learning all those things, let us move forward to question number 17, which tells the process of changing a problem culture. For example, if you feel that the culture of your organization is not up to the mark, and if you strongly feel, being a leader, if you strongly feel that several changes have to be taken place in the culture of your organization to support the strategy, what things you have to do. Okay, and here are some guidelines given to you to change the problem culture and to have a good fit between strategy and culture. Let us understand those points one by one. See, the points are very easy. First of all, you have to identify where the problem lies. Okay, in what part of the organization the problem lies, in which department or in which function or in which division the problem lies, and what is the problem, and what is the intensity and seriousness of the problem, in what way that problem is preventing you from achieving the strategies. So these all things you need to have a clarity. That is point number one. That is very important. And once you identify the problem, you have to talk openly and forthrightly with the concerned people and explain them the problems that are faced by the organization with the existing culture, and you should clearly communicate to them the need for changing the culture of the organization, and you should devise punishment and reward programs so that people who listen to you and change their cultures, okay, will be rewarded, and the people who do not listen will be punished. And sometimes you need to recruit new people who can work in the new culture, because there will be some problem with the old people that we will learn in the next lesson, strategy implementation and control, where bringing about a change is very tough. People will not listen to you instantly. So you have to convince them, and even you convince them, many people may not be in a position to accept the change and bring about change in their attitudes, habits, their working styles, etc. So you have to give them strict warnings, you have to make them understand the things. And if at all they do not listen, it is better you ask them to walk out of the company, to resign from their jobs. So these are some of the steps that you can make to create a perfect culture in your organization, which is supportive to the implementation or execution of the strategy. Okay, so with that introduction, let us try to understand the question word by word. Changing a company's culture to align with its strategy is one of the toughest tasks of management. Yes, really it is the toughest task. Because what is the definition of culture? Culture is the embedded patterns of values, beliefs, thought processes, attitudes of the people of your organization. And do you think that changing the beliefs, attitudes, thought process, ways of working style of the people to change easily? No, it is not at all possible. It is of course it is possible, but it is not easy. It is not easily done. That is the important thing. So that's why the top level management should be very serious enough to bring about a cultural change in the organization. Just nominal efforts, some basic efforts are not at all sufficient to bring about the change in culture of the organization. So intensive, deep-rooted, intensive management action is required to bring about the cultural change in the organization. You have to do it in a very serious manner, consistently, constantly. Only then you can observe a change in the culture of the organization. On the other hand, if you are not very serious enough, and if you take some nominal steps, and if you do some nominal things to bring about the change in the culture, I'm sorry, that is not going to give you any results. That will not make any change in the culture of the organization. So, because changing the culture is the changing the culture implies changing the mindsets of the people, changing the attitudes of the people, changing the thought processes of the people, changing their value systems, changing their beliefs. And you can observe in your own personal case how your mind will react whenever it wants to adopt to a particular change. Generally, in the first instance, the mind of every person will try to resist the change, will try to throw away the change, will try to push the change, rather than trying to understand the change and accept the change. So this is the biggest hurdle, this is the biggest obstruction in bringing about a change in the organization. So this has to be carefully managed with proper things. That is the most important thing you need to understand. So changing a company's culture to align with the strategy, that is very important. I already have told you in the previous session that if your strategy is moving in this direction and if your culture is moving in this direction, there is no alignment. But you need to achieve the alignment. The strategy should be aligned with the culture. Only then you can get better results. So this is definitely the toughest tasks of the management. And it is easier to talk about than do. Yes, it is a fact. No one can deny. It is a fact. See, you can tell a lot of things that we have to change like this, we have to bring about, we have to modify this, we have to restructure that. In that way, we can give marathon lectures for longer hours. But in action, what is the result? Sometimes in action, there will be zero result. Because you cannot bring out the change in culture so easily. It can be easily said than done. It cannot be done so easily. That is what you need to understand. And changing a problem culture is very difficult because of the heavy anchor of deeply held values and habits which people attach emotionally to old and familiar. This is the biggest problem. See, the minds of the people are deep-rootedly attached to their existing beliefs, to their existing value systems, to their existing working styles. And once you ask them to change them, so they face a lot of problem. They face a lot of problem. And their minds are not in a position to accept the change. So, because here one beautiful word is used, heavy anchor. So, you know what is an anchor, which holds the things. So, the mind is holding in a very strong way. The mind is holding the old habits, the old behaviors, the old attitudes and all. And suddenly, all of a sudden, if you ask them to change, they face a conflict. They face an internal conflict. And their minds are not ready to accept it. So that's why they resist it in the first place. So, you have to bring about the change in the culture of the organization in a careful, meticulous, conscious, cautious manner. For that, intensive management action is required over a period of time. See, each and every word is important. Intensive management action is required over a period of time. Not a point of time, period of time. If you just tell them, for example, if you conduct a staff meeting and you just tell them, okay, this is the way we need to do, this is the way we need to work, do you think that people will easily understand it and follow it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Then what has to be done? You have to consistently tell them. And it takes a lot of time. It do not happen over a particular point of time. But it takes a period of time. Maybe 6 months, maybe 1 year, maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years. Yes, definitely it takes. Depending on the size of your organization. The bigger the size of your organization, the larger time it takes to convince the people, to bring about a cultural change in the organization. So that is what you need to always keep in mind. Okay, and to replace an unhealthy culture with the healthy culture. That means to replace the non-supportive culture and to transform it into a supportive culture, intense management action is required. And to root out certain unwanted cultural obstacles and introduce new ones that are more strategy supportive. These are not easy things. These are the most toughest things. See what is said here, what is the word used there? To root out. Because all these old habits, old ways of thinking, old beliefs, they are deeply rooted. Now, if the management do not make a radical change Here we require a radical transformation. Here radical means from the roots. So you have to root out from the roots what things that are ingrained, inculcated in the minds of the people. So you have to make lot of efforts. You have to do an Herculean task to root out the old things from the minds of the people and make them understand. See, understanding is the problem. If they understand, they do it. But the problem is they don't understand. Their minds will not allow them to understand. So everything is in the mind. Their minds will not allow them to understand the things. Because lot of old things are ingrained in their minds. Now you have to root out all those things from their minds, and you should make their minds into clean slates, so that now the mind will accept and will try to understand the new things. So this is a very tough task. But here some of these steps are given that may be of great help to you to understand the process of bringing a cultural change in the organization. The first one is diagnose which areas of the present culture or strategies supportive and which are not. So, which areas of the present culture or strategy supportive and which are not. Okay, so first that you need to understand. Because there may be some areas where the culture is good. The same value system, the same attitudes, the same beliefs can be continued. There is no problem with them. But there are some areas which require attention, which require change, which require transformation. So first you have to categorize. You have to find out which of the areas require cultural change and which of the areas do not require cultural change. So first you have to diagnose that. That means what are the accepted things and what are the non-accepted things in your culture. First you need to make a comprehensive list of all those things. That is the first step. Okay, you have made a comprehensive list of both strategy supportive things and non-strategy supportive things. Now what you have to do? You have to focus on these non-strategy supportive areas. So for that, what you have to do? You have to talk openly and forthrightly with the concerned persons about the aspects of the culture that need to be changed. Yeah, this is the most important thing. Talk openly and forthrightly. You just assemble the people. Talk to them. Communicate with them. Communicate to them the need for change in the culture. Okay, and what happens if we continue with the same culture? What problems we face in the future? In what way our strategies cannot be implemented if you follow the same culture? So you have to openly and forthrightly, straight away, in a candid manner. Candid means put things straight, in an affirmative way, in a candid manner. You have to communicate it to the people. Only then they understand the seriousness, the intensiveness of the changes that you are telling them to bring about in their thought process or attitudes. Okay? Now, sir, is it enough if we talk openly and forthrightly with the people? No, it is not enough. Because you should never forget that it is a mind game. And the minds of the people, including you and me, they are very stubborn. They don't easily accept anything. And the problem is, they don't easily accept anything, and once they accept, they don't easily change it. So two things are the biggest problems. They don't easily accept, and once they accept, they don't easily change what they accepted. So this has to be done constantly and consistently over a period of time. You have to convene a lot of meetings periodically. For every 1 week or for every 10 days, you have to convene, you have to discuss, you have to tell them, you have to communicate to them, you have to show them the case studies. Okay, because don't expect change to happen overnight. Change do not happen overnight. Change is a periodical process. It takes some time to bring about the change in the mindsets of the people. That is what you need to understand. So, now, once you present before them the need for change, then what you have to do? You have to do a serious follow-up. That is the next step. So, follow up with visible, aggressive actions to modify the culture. Okay, in the first instance, in the first place, what you did, you have presented them about the need for change. You tried to convince them, you tried to communicate to them, and you have to make a serious follow-up, whether to see whether they are following the things what you tell them to do, whether they are very serious enough or not. That is what you need to understand. So follow up with visible aggressive actions to modify the culture. What do you mean by visible and aggressive actions? Visible and aggressive actions means, okay, I told the people to bring about a change. So are they following it? Are they serious about it? Are they trying to bring a change? And even we are not expecting the change to happen entirely at one go. So if you expect that, being the leader of the organization, then it is absolutely your mistake. So here we are not asking to bring about the change immediately. Okay, we are asking the change to happen gradually. So you have to make a serious follow-up to observe the things, whether the change is coming in the attitudes of the people gradually or not. That is the most important thing. And revising policies and procedures in such a way that it will help to drive the cultural change. This is the most important thing. Being a person at the top level of the organization, you should always revise your policies and procedures to support the new culture. And this is the grave mistake done by many organizations. They talk about cultural change. Okay, but they don't change their policies. They change their procedures. Then what happens? Again, it will be like putting an old wine in the new bottle. See, what is more important? You should create an environment for the people to work. And in an organization, how the environment is created? The environment is created by formulating the policies and procedures. So, the top level management must seriously formulate the policies and procedures that are required to bring about the cultural change. That is very important. If you don't change your policies and if you continue with the old policies, then you get the same old results. Of course, your strategy may be new, your thought process may be new, but ultimately it is the policy which decides the way of doing the work. So definitely the policies and procedures have to be changed, and make changes in incentive system so as to reward the desired cultural behavior. See, the human mind always look for some motivation. So you ask people to work in a new way. Okay, that is fine, no problem. But immediately they are suspicious about the rewards. Because every human mind think in a business-like manner. What do I get in return if I do this? What is the need for me to do like this? Why the management is asking me to do like this? And sometimes what happens is, if you change your culture, that may be an additional burden on the people. So now you have to think, are people ready to accept the additional burden? And if they want to accept the additional burden, what has to be done? Incentive system has to be modified. You have to reward them in a better way, to encourage them to follow the new culture. So once you give them the right kind of rewards, then they feel attracted, they feel motivated, and they'll try to follow the new cultural patterns. So that is why these are very practical points. This is not just theory. The subject may be a theoretical subject. You may be learning the things theoretically, but these are all 200% practical points where you have to perform to bring about the cultural change in the organization. And many organizations have followed these steps, and they are successful in bringing about the cultural change, at least to some extent, in their organizations. Okay. So, make changes in incentive system so as to reward the desired cultural behavior. Means increase the incentives, and whoever are performing according to your ideas, you reward them. So that here what happens? Two groups will be formed. One group listening to you and following your culture, following your ideas, and another group who are reluctant. And if you offer good incentives and rewards to the people who listen to you, automatically the remaining part, the other part, they also get motivated, and they also slowly try to change. That is the most important thing. And visibly praise and recognize the people who display the new cultural traits. See, this is all about motivating the people. Okay. And some people are self-starters. They can easily understand. They can easily accept. They have greater understanding. So, they will listen to you, they will understand, and they will try to implement what you ask them to implement. So, whoever are performing according to your ideas, you should praise them visibly. There are different ways of doing that. There will be notice board in the organization, there will be internal websites, there will be internal communication channels, there will be SMS facility, there will be other facilities to recognize the employee. Okay, so you praise them in all the internal communication channels. Okay, you declare them as the star performer, you declare them as the change agent, or you declare them as the change patron. So you give them some title so that they are identified. And this gives motivation to the remaining people that they should also be identified, that they should also get the rewards and incentives. So that automatically a sense of cultural change will come in the organization. And recruit and hire new managers and employees who have the desired cultural values and can serve as the role models to others. So it is just like introducing some new catalyst into the organization to bring about the change. So, in addition to the existing people, you recruit some new people so that they are very fresh, they are very new to the organization, because all your existing people, they have already worked in the old culture and they face a lot of problem once they want to move in the new culture. But once you recruit new people, they are the first timers for your company, then it is easy for them to learn the new culture. So, your works become easy. So, that's why you recruit some new managers and give them training in the new culture and ask them to do. Now, again, there will be a division. These new people work in the new culture and they are appreciated and they are rewarded and they are given incentives. Then again, this will be acting as a motivation to the existing people to change their cultural attitudes and habits. And communicate the basis of cultural change to employees and its benefits to all concerned. This has to be done continuously. It is not a one-time activity. If you just convene a staff meeting and tell them once, that is not enough. So you have to constantly, continuously over a period of time, like weekly meetings or fortnightly meetings or daily meetings. So at all levels of the organization, you should ensure that they really understand the need of the change in the culture and the seriousness of the top level management regarding the change in the culture of the organization, and get the support of first line supervisors and employee union leaders. This is a very practical point. In many organizations, see, there will be lot of workers, sometimes thousands of them, lakhs of them in very big organizations like Tata's, IBM's. There will be lakhs of employees. So it is not possible for the top level management to go to the level of the low level employee and to tell him. Now what you have to do? You have to follow some approach. So you just try to keep in your control the supervisors, the managers and the employee union leaders. So you tell them the necessity for change, and these people in turn will try to convince them. So this has to be done in a phase-wise manner, in a hierarchical manner, to bring about the cultural change in the entire organization. Okay. Now, the task of managing culture supportive strategy is not a short-term exercise. That is what I am telling you. It is not a short-term exercise. It is a long-term exercise. Short-term exercise means don't imagine or don't be in a wrong notion that you can bring about the desired change within 3 days or 5 days or within 1 month or 6 months. No. It takes time. It takes time for a new culture to emerge and prevail. Sir, what is the time? I have told you. In some companies, in some large companies, it may take 2 to 5 years for the new culture to be learned and to be implemented. And the bigger the organization, the greater the culture shift needed to produce culture strategy shift. It takes a long time. So that is what you need to understand. So with that, we have finished about culture, the importance of culture in the strategy execution process. So all the three concepts which are very much helpful for the successful implementation and execution of the strategy we have discussed. What are they? The first one is the structure, second one leadership, and third one culture. So a strategic manager should have a clear-cut understanding regarding the importance of these three concepts in the strategy implementation and execution process. Okay? Right. Now let us move on to two small concepts which are very important. They are entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. See, I think you know what is entrepreneurship. Okay. And some people pronounce it as entrepreneurship, but we can, the actual pronunciation is entrepreneurship. Okay. Anyway, you can pronounce, no problem. So what is entrepreneurship? See, an entrepreneur is a person who wants to do something on his own. He has a creative idea. Okay. And he wants to be a job creator rather than a job seeker. He don't look for jobs, but rather he wants to create the jobs. He wants to create an entity and he wants to take that organization forward, and he is ready to accept the risk. He is a risk taker. Okay. And he always wants to promote his idea into the market. That is an entrepreneur. Okay. And seriously, every country requires entrepreneurs. Every student in the college, every job seeker, he has to change a mindset that rather than looking for a job, he has to think of creating the jobs by becoming an entrepreneur. Of course, the governments should also create an ecology, the environment that is supportive to the entrepreneurs. Only then an economy will develop. Job creation happens. See, the development of any economy or the job creation in any economy, it all happens only with the entrepreneurship. Okay, so that is the importance of entrepreneurship. Let us try to understand about it. Entrepreneurship is an attitude of mind to seek opportunities, take calculated risk, and drive benefits by starting and running a venture. See, it is an attitude of mind, definitely. But our existing ecology, either in the education system or in the political system or in the social system, what is happening is people are having an attitude of mind to seek the jobs rather than seeking the opportunities to become the entrepreneur. That is why the education, sociological, political, governmental, in all these areas, there should be a radical transformation to create the mindset of entrepreneurship in the people. So, entrepreneurship is an attitude of mind where a person don't want to seek the job, but he runs behind the opportunities and he is ready to take the calculated risks. And of course, he is the creator of his own destiny. He will take the risk and he will also take the benefits. He will enjoy the returns and at the same time he has to face the risks. And an entrepreneur will generally start a venture on his own rather than working for someone else. So an entrepreneur is a person who wants to work for himself. And he will employ some people to work for himself. He is a big risk taker. And at the same time, he enjoys the returns. It comprises of numerous activities involved in conception, creation, and running an enterprise. Do you think that running an enterprise, setting up an enterprise and running it successfully is a cakewalk? Is an easy thing? Absolutely no. Especially in countries like India, there is lot of legal framework. There is lot of rules and there are a lot of rules and regulations which an entrepreneur has to comply to create a venture, to create an entity and successfully run it. So, in order to set up an industry or an entity and run it successfully, you have to do a lot of activities. But that is why we say entrepreneurs are the real heroes. They are the real heroes. They are ready to take the risk. They are not screen heroes. They are the real heroes. Because they are ready to accept the risks. Okay. And they'll try to set up firms and create job opportunities to the people. It's a great thing. And what is meaning of entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is a person who searches for business opportunity and starts a new enterprise to make use of that opportunity. Yes. First of all, the entrepreneurial idea in a person starts whenever he identifies an opportunity. Because the world is full of opportunities. But you have to sense it in the right way. That is the most important thing. See, I am a job seeker. Even though there are a lot of opportunities before me, I do not pay attention to them. Because my mind is always seeking. My mind always seeks for a job. Because my mind is conditioned in that way. Due to the influence of the family, society, education system, political systems, my mind is programmed, is conditioned in such a way that I always look for a job. But entrepreneurs are a special tribe. Entrepreneurs are a special class of people where they seek out the new opportunities. They search for new business opportunities. And they think of creating a business enterprise to utilize that particular opportunity. That is why, in order to become an entrepreneur, you should have lot of empathy. See, the word empathy is the most powerful word. You should have lot of empathy. Empathy is the most important and powerful word. Empathy is trying to understand the pains of the other people, the attitude of the other people, trying to understand their state of mind. So that is empathy. So an entrepreneur will have a lot of empathy. He understands the problems of the people and he finds opportunities to create business entities. And he initiates and innovates a new concept. He recognizes and utilizes the opportunity. And these are two biggest things. There are two parts here. First one is the recognition and the second part is the utilization. So these two things should be there. And arranges and coordinates resources such as man, material, machine and capital. Yes. He has to convene everything. He has to coordinate everything. He has to bring, in economics already you have studied, he has to bring all the factors of production, land, labor and capital at one place, and he should start out the enterprise. And he is in a position to face the risks and uncertainties. And he will establish a startup company. Generally an entrepreneur, either as a sole proprietor or either a person who has enrolled a one-person company, OPC, he will establish a startup company and he adds value to the product or service. See, don't think that being an entrepreneur, you should always come out with a new thing. No, that is not required. You can add up some new features to the existing product, or you can find the problems in the existing product and you can come out with a new version of that. That also you can do. And takes decisions to make product or service a profitable one. Yes, he is the sole proprietor. So he takes every possible decision to improve the profits of his company. And he is responsible for both profits and losses. Yes, he is the creator of his own destiny. If his venture is successful, he will enjoy it. If his venture is not successful, he has to face the risks. He is a big risk taker. That is why we regard him, we consider him as an economic hero. That is what we need to understand. Now, that is the concept of entrepreneur. Now, in the corporate circles, there is an emerging trend called as an intrapreneur. See, there are some differences between entrepreneur and intrapreneur. See, an entrepreneur, see for example, I am working in an organization and I have a business idea. Okay, and I have observed a lacuna, a gap in my existing business. So I want to start a new business on my own and I want to go out of the organization. I want to resign my job and go out of the organization and start my own business, turning into an entrepreneur. That is the actual case. Now, I have done like that. That means in my existing firm or in my existing business, I found some problems and I have told to my HR manager that I want to resign the job and start my own thing. Then my HR manager told to the chairman of the company that I want to resign from the job. Now my chairman called me and discussed with me, why you want to go out? I told, I want to start my own enterprise, I want to become an entrepreneur. So now the chairman of the company has given me a proposal telling that instead of going out, why can't you do the same thing by being an employee of this organization? He told that he'll give me the freedom, the liberty that is required. And he asks me to test my idea. Because even if I become an entrepreneur, I have to go out and test my idea. And there is one problem. See, once if I resign my job and go out, I will lose the financial security. I will lose the salary. I am not financially secured. You see, that is the biggest problem with the people to become entrepreneurs. Because there is no fixed income. There is no fixed salary. That is the biggest problem. So that is the reason being an intrapreneur. Intra means inside. That means I will be working inside the organization, but I will be working as an entrepreneur. Okay, that means entrepreneur is not having any financial security and support. He has to do everything on his own. Whereas intrapreneur will have a job security and support from the organization. And if you are successful, you will become the partner. Now you are an employee, but in future you may become the partner. You may go up to the top level management. So these all chances are there. So the difference between intrapreneur and entrepreneur is, for example, if I want to become an entrepreneur, I have to go out of the company and test my idea. Whereas today large companies, they are promoting a new concept called intrapreneurship, so that I need not walk out of the company, I need not resign my job, I will be the employee of the company, but I will be given all the resources and the support, the required support, because gathering the resources and getting the required support is the toughest job of the entrepreneur. And intrapreneurs can have them very easily. I can get the support and the resources from the management, and I can test my idea, and if my idea is successful, I will be given partnership, or I will be given a prominent role, so that I can fulfill my dream of becoming an entrepreneur, being the manager of the company, being the employee of the company. So this is a very great idea. Intrapreneurship is a very great idea, because you need not leave anything, you need not lose anything, but still you can become an entrepreneur. That is the great idea behind intrapreneur. Okay, so an intrapreneur is nothing but he is also an entrepreneur, but an entrepreneur goes out of the company and do something on his own, whereas an intrapreneur is a person who operates within the boundaries of the organization. An intrapreneur is the employee of the organization, but at the same time he is given all the freedom, liberty, resources and support that are required to test his business idea. He is an employee of a large organization who is vested with authority of initiating creativity and innovation in the company's products, services and projects, redesigning the processes, workflows and systems. See, you know Oracle Corporation. Okay, Oracle Corporation was started by Larry Ellison. This Larry Ellison was one time an employee of IBM, and he founded some problems in the software designed by IBM, and he went out, he rectified those problems and released a new software into the market called Oracle. But if IBM has given him an opportunity to do that by being an employee of IBM, today there might not be Oracle Corporation. Larry Ellison may be an employee of IBM only. So once your employees find some problem in your products or problems in your process, and they tell you, and if they go out and they start their own businesses, in future they may become your competitor. So these all things happen. But instead of doing all that, as your employees are telling that there are some problems in your products or in your businesses, so give them some resources, give them some time, give them some liberty, so that ask them to experiment, okay, and do the things. That is the concept of intrapreneurship. The intrapreneurs believe in change and do not fear failure, because they are supported by the organization. They discover new ideas, look for such opportunities and can benefit the whole organization, and take risks, promote innovation and improve the performance and profitability of the organization. So an intrapreneur is a semi-entrepreneur who works for the same organization, but not like an employee, but like an entrepreneur. And if his idea is successful, that is definitely going to be helpful to the entire organization. And this person also will be promoted to the top level management as the president or vice president. Okay. Their job is extremely challenging. They get recognition and reward for the success achieved by them. What recognition and reward they get? For example, I am a normal employee in marketing department. Now I find some problem with my company and I have intimated it to the top level management, and they have given me an intrapreneurial chance. So that I have experimented and I have solved that problem. So I have worked very hard, no? So I will be promoted, not to the just one level above, but I will be directly promoted to the top level, to the general managerial level. That means a long leap from the lowest position to the highest position. I will jump. Okay. And it has now become a trend that large corporations appoint intrapreneur within the organization to bring operational excellence and gain competitive edge in the market. Yes, definitely. Today, companies like Tata, Oracle, IBM, okay, these all companies, of course, I have just named the three of them, but almost all companies, they have understood the importance of intrapreneurship and the potency of the most creative and innovative employees working in the organization. They have identified all of that and they are promoting the concept of intrapreneur. That is giving some chance and freedom to the employees to work for the betterment of the organization. So that is the concept of intrapreneur. So an intrapreneur is an entrepreneur who works inside the organization for the benefit of the organization. And if a chance is not given to him to work, then he will definitely go out, become an entrepreneur, and in future he may become a competitor to you. Okay, so that is the concept of intrapreneurship and entrepreneurship. So with that, we have finished this particular lesson. Okay, so this is a very important lesson which discussed about three important things: structure, culture, and leadership. And don't forget to read application oriented questions. Don't forget to read similar questions. They are all very important. And don't expect straightforward questions in your examinations. Keep reading. Thank you.